It's kind of phenomenal that FlyQuest have been able to go from the winner's bracket, get knocked down, and then go all the way over into the Spring Split 2020 finals against Cloud9. And while a lot of fans and analysts and pundits are all just clamoring towards Cloud9's camp, there are some win conditions in which FlyQuest can at least maximize their chances to winning against Cloud9. Now, I'm not saying that they have any business winning this best of five, but here are some win conditions for FlyQuest to actually, win the entire game, or at least better their odds to win it. And one idea is that they need to not get mid priority. That's a little bit something different. As far as mid priority, there's, I think, two ways in which you could look at it. And the whole definition of mid priority, as I would put it, is that you get both vision priority and push priority when it comes to, like, the mid lane and the matchup, etc. And also you get a better mid lane matchup as far as the champion picks, right? Because that eventually leads to a better push and a better vision control and better roam potential, or even better, or I guess similarly, is the threat of roaming, right? You can fake a roam sometimes in order to have the enemy bot lane or enemy top lane pull back their aggression, which then allows for your teammates to get better CS or just better lane control through the side lanes. And I think that is one of the underrated aspects when you just talk about mid lane priority in that sense, and the roaming potential, because it's not the fact that you get a successful roam, it's the idea that you can get a successful roam. There's a psychology to it, and I think that's very important. So when it comes to FlyQuest, I really don't think you're going to get any of that. But what you can do, is at least try and get vision priority. I think as long as you're able to get vision priority, then the actual fake roam doesn't have that psychological effect, right? Because you know exactly where the mid laner is. He's just chilling there and he's faking a roam. So you can predict these timings a little bit better when it comes to the side lane control. So then you're able to actually use whatever advantage that you have in the side lane to then press for something further. That is, if you have an advantage in the side lane to begin with, right? So as long as you're able to dictate the mid lane vision, I think FlyQuest stand a more decent chance in coming into this matchup. Now, as far as Cloud9's win condition, I've said I have an article coming out about their specific win conditions and whatnot. But it's basically that Cloud9 just need to keep doing what they're doing. They have the best 2v2 in the entire NALCS. So just keep running with that and just don't shy away from your game plan, and don't try and be cute and do something different, because what you're doing right now is just working against every fucking team in the league, and you are the most dominant team that North America has seen in quite a while. So I would say just do what you've been doing so far. And then as far as the whole idea of draft, so the draft gets a little bit different when you think of, I guess, how both of these teams want to function, because in one instance you have your strongest player, Blabber, on Cloud9, that can basically be successful on anything, and I feel like what they tend to do is draft for the mid 2v2 to then press their advantage from that to snowball other lanes. That's generally how Cloud9 function. And so if you're able to break up that advantage for Cloud9, then you have a recipe for success for FlyQuest. So if FlyQuest can do that somehow, because Of course, Cloud9 have their famous Nocturne pick, right? Or even Pantheon Jungle, which they did lose that game with Talia as well too. I think that was against, I want to say that was against TSM. And so it's not that they necessarily look bad on those champions, but you eventually get outscaled to a degree. So if FlyQuest are able to play the scaling game, but also allow for PoE to get the counter pick in the second part of the draft to where he doesn't get completely shit stomped if he picks a scaling pick, you know, such as Azir, for instance, then, or better yet, even Kassadin, right? We've seen a lot of Kassadin bans in the second phase of the draft phase from blue side, and that's because teams are afraid that if they get counterpicked against Kassadin, you know, say they pick something that is not very strong into Kassadin, then Kassadin's just going to take over in the late game, right? So maybe you try and bank for that. Maybe as FlyQuest, you go into this match and you say, yeah, I want red side, and I want to try and get a scaling pick, not necessarily a counter pick, but a scaling pick that won't get completely shit stomped by Nizki, and then you can kind of go into the late game. And also, with that said, you have top lane, and by what I mean by that is that if you did your due diligence and you made it to where that you can get vision priority for the mid lane to where mid lane can't snowball against you and Nizki can roam around along with Blabber to affect other lanes, then you can isolate the side lanes to where maybe, just maybe, Solo can actually get an upper hand against Licorice, which is their weakest member. And, you know, I say that weakest member on a fucking phenomenal team of Cloud9, but he is their weakest member regardless, even though he is still a very good player. So maybe you can isolate that matchup and hopefully Solo can get a good lead against that and then affect Cloud9's team fight phase, because Licorice is just so very good at doing team fights. So affect the team fight phase for Cloud9 by disrupting the top lane and also keeping vision priority in the mid lane, and then hopefully you get a scaling pick for PoE to where when you do get to the team fight phase, you have both a stronger top laner and a stronger mid laner just inherently by stats alone for the mid lane. And I think that's how Cloud9 actually win this one. Now, as to say, or sorry, FlyQuest win this one, but that is to say that FlyQuest are able to do this. So I'm just predicting a 3-0 from Cloud9, not gonna lie. It's gonna be a decently easy matchup for them because FlyQuest win conditions kind of go into Cloud9 strengths, and that's kind of just where they want them anyways. So I feel like this is just a very easy win for Cloud9. But if it does get to the late game, I think that with the potential for Wild Turtle to pop off, I actually think Wild Turtle is one of the best ADCs in North America when it comes to kind of going crazy, you know, obviously, but maximizing his DPS and taking chances at team fight positioning in order to maximize his DPS. That's why you see him flashing in and going for kills or going for extra damage that other ADCs wouldn't do, because traditionally as an ADC, you want to play safe. And that's what every other fucking ADC does. Aside from maybe I would say Doublelift is kind of the mixture of, at least classically, Doublelift is the mixture of someone who plays safe but also is able to press the bar very high and taking risks. And Wild Turtle is just above that. He just takes a lot of risks. Sometimes that doesn't pan out, but sometimes he just gets crazy DPM out. And so if Wild Turtle is on the ball towards the late game, you have a slightly snowballing top lane and you have a mid lane that just has more stats based upon his champion. I think FlyQuest can potentially win this, but probably not. I'm guessing 3-0 for Cloud9.